there was what I would consider very ruthless business practices where, you're selling a book. I know that your competitor has this for cheaper, and so what can I do as a digital marketplace? I can downgrade your link and upgrade your competitor's link. I can do things that are, you know, they're cutting into that margin, because that's how I know I can bring people back to my site and to order more things. There's a really classic example is people would go into bookstores, browse a selection, find the book they wanted, then go home and order it on Amazon just because it would be a little bit cheaper and they wouldn't have to pay the sales tax.
It's this relentless... Let's get it.
We're back
with another founder's trap, I should say.
Yes, another week.
Mm-hmm.
Another founder.
Founder. All right, man, let's get right into it.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
Today is the one, the only.
Jeffrey Bezos.
That's right. You love that song.
Huh?
It's stuck in your head.
It's so catchy. It's that Bo Burnham song that
It's
you
very
were playing
catchy.
a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Bezos.
Jeffrey Bezos. We just had a little session playing some videos of Jeff Bezos' laugh. We're discussing how it evolved over the years. How it's a powerful laugh.
He's got a very definitive laugh.
Yeah.
Something you would hear it in crowded room. I know exactly where he's at.
Anyway.
Yes. Anyway.
All right, man. We love Jeff Bezos' laugh. I love Jeff Bezos' laugh. Jake doesn't
not
like
a
Jeff
laugh.
Bezos'
It's not a laugh. It's an emote. He does the whole thing, and then he laughs. But anyway,
let's get into it.
Yes.
You said that you had a lot to talk about with him. Is there anything that you want to highlight specifically before we get into his timeline, or do you want to just weave it in?
I think I'll probably just weave it in mostly. Cool. But yeah, I mean, Jeff has been the center of attention for a long time, and he even was like the richest person in the world for a while. So there's always been a lot of stories coming out around him.
Yeah, no kidding. So in this episode, we're going to go through his timeline, talk about different events, interpret different events, comment on that.
Yes.
We're learning about Jeff Bezos, going a little bit deeper on the guy who started Amazon, the quintessential startup company, and then in the super secret founders drive that we normally do after this, we're going to go a little bit more into the application of what we learned,
It's ruthlessness.
the psychology,
Yes.
the belief system that we believe makes him and drives him as a founder, and just see what we can take away from that. So diving in, Jeff Bezos,
You know when he was born.
1964.
That's right.
1964, born Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen. On January...
That would have been great. Jeff Jorgensen.
On January 12th, 1964, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His mother was Jackie. I don't know if is that Geis or is that Geese?
Well, I don't know the actual pronunciation of that.
Yeah, that's not something I looked up. But his mother, Jackie, was 17 years old when she had him, and his father, Ted Jorgensen, was 19 years old. He was a Danish American, performed as a unicyclist, and was president of the Albuquerque Unicycle Club. His father struggled with alcohol and finances, and eventually they broke up.
Yeah.
And this led to his mother, of course, separating, but then cutting off all contact with his father, and he agreed to that.
Yeah.
Just foreshadowing is his father didn't know that he was Jeff Bezos, the billionaire, until much later when I can't remember
some journalist found him,
but
right?
he was going there to interview him, and he was like, wait a minute, what? But he still didn't contact him. I don't know the particulars about that. That's obviously his family life.
Yeah.
But this eventually led to his mother remarrying with a guy named Mike Bezos, a Cuban American immigrant.
Yep.
And Jeff Bezos being adopted by Mike, and using his last name, going from Jeff Jorgensen to Jeff Bezos. The transformation.
It's a wild transformation. Jorgensen would have been great.
Yeah.
And I think this happened when he was like, 1 or 2 years old.
Yeah, very early.
So
He
very early.
Yeah, he didn't know about this until he was about 10 years old.
Much older, yeah.
His adoptive father, Mike Bezos, became an engineer at Exxon, and the family moved from Albuquerque to Houston and then to Miami, where Jeff Bezos stays today. I didn't know he was a Miami boy. Yeah.
I mean, now you could kind of see it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
now you can kind of see it.
Jacked up. He has the muscles, the look, everything, but
Before,
I didn't know that about that. Yeah,
No.
that's where he grew up. So skipping down here, his father was Lawrence Preston. I think that's Geis.
I think that's how you say it. I mean, that's how I would say it.
I don't know. Was his mother's father, so his maternal grandfather, and he was a regional director for the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission in Albuquerque. In 1958, he helped establish the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA at the time, later called DARPA.
Yes.
For those that are unaware, that's a Pentagon agency that would eventually create the internet, amongst other defense projects.
Yes.
In 1964, Congress appointed his grandfather as the head of the AEC's Albuquerque operations, overseeing 26,000 employees across Sandia, Los Alamos, and Lawrence Livermore laboratories. Geis retired in 1968 to his ranch, the Lazy G, in Texas, about 90 miles west of San Antonio. Jeff spent every summer at the ranch from about 14 to 16, and he did a lot of manual labor there, laying pipe, repairing equipment.
Yep.
And he later said that this taught him a dimension of self reliance, resourcefulness, a fix-it mentality. If something's wrong, go fix it. Don't wait for somebody else to go and fix it. And that's just kind of the mentality that you have on a ranch. So
there was that one story. This was when he was like 14, but when he was 10, he made his grandmother cry by throwing away her cigarettes. He had heard a story or watched an advertisement for a no smoking campaign that said, hey, for every cigarette you smoke, you lose a minute or two off of your life. And so they were on a road trip with his grandmother, and he had silently counted how many cigarettes she was smoking, and then told her, hey, you just took away 20-30 minutes of your life right there. Apparently it made her cry. To the point where his grandfather was like, listen, you're gonna learn that sometimes it's better to be nice than correct. Well, I think it's an interesting thing to learn at around 10 years old.
Yeah.
Is like you might be able to be smart and be correct, but what's that impact? If you actually are tearing people down, you're still right, but that balance at a very young age.
That's an interesting one. First, it's interesting that his grandmother cried that she lost her cigarettes.
I don't know.
But I get the sentiment in the sense that sometimes, what you think is right isn't meant to be imposed on other people.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that's the way that I would take that away.
Yeah.
It is still like smoking, so if anything, it is one of those things where it's wild that it was like, hey, I'm gonna take these cigarettes and get rid of them. But yeah, that's an interesting action and an interesting response to the situation.
Yeah.
High school. He attended Miami Palmetto Senior High School in Miami, Florida. He was the valedictorian of his class of 680 students, the National Merit Scholar and Silver Knight Award winner, president of the Science Honor Society, and he displayed early technological interests.
Very good student.
Yeah, playing around with electric alarms to keep his younger siblings out of his room. Not anything like Palmer Luckey.
Right. Oculus.
But he did show interest.
But
he,
valedictorian.
Yeah, that's nothing to blink at.
That's impressive.
What's interesting is during his speech, he forecasted a lot of his desires for wanting to explore space.
Yeah, that's also cool because it's like calling your shot.
Yeah, I mean, you see that with what he's doing with Blue Origin right now. I don't know if he was part of this Artemis 2
Oh, I don't know.
project.
I'm sure they helped a little bit.
Yeah, but he's also taken a trip up into orbit, and he's of course advancing a lot of modern space travel. And he said then that he wanted to build space hotels, amusement parks, yachts, colonies for 2 to 3 million people orbiting around the Earth. And he told the Miami Herald he wanted to get all people off the Earth and see it turned into a huge national park.
I mean, to do this when you're 17,
Mhm.
18 years old,
Yeah.
like, some people have the dreams and stuff, but like to see it actually fulfilled is crazy. But you start to see these building blocks of somebody who is extremely smart in terms of like school education,
Mhm.
has these really high ambitions, and has a family support structure that actually enables some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like the perfect mix of chemicals
Mhm.
to create a really, really, really good founder.
Yeah, he's so I was listening to the Founders podcast, and one of the words that kept coming up was relentless.
It still redirects to Amazon today. Relentless.com.
Relentless.com still redirects to Amazon. And the reason why I bring that up is when they asked him about his idea of being relentless, they were like, will you stop at nothing to accomplish a goal? And he somewhat revised the statement to say, if I believe that I can accomplish something, then, and there was a little bit more to it, but he said, if I believe that I can accomplish something, then I will continue to pursue that with all of my energy and all of my force. And when I think of that in the context of his space pursuit, setting that early on,
Yeah.
even while he was building Amazon in the early days, in the back of his mind, he was probably thinking, I still need to get to space. I still need to get to space. And we'll see this a little bit later, but in 2000, he already started Blue Origin.
Right.
So what we're seeing today is the culmination of over 2 decades of building.
And starting small, which, I mean, he acknowledges that in quite a number of his keynotes.
Yeah.
Everything starts small.
Everything. So, after he left Miami Herald, he got into Princeton University. This is 1982 to 1986. He entered Princeton planning to study physics, but realized that he didn't really have the chops to be a theoretical physicist. And so he switched to computer science and electrical engineering. And he graduated in 1986.
With distinguished honors, too.
Summa cum laude.
Yeah.
4.2
Like that's
GPA.
from Princeton?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Elected Phi Beta Kappa and Tau Beta Phi Pi honors societies. And I mean, you can see that. I mean, he was poised to develop in the sciences, especially with his maternal grandfather as an example, but then also his father as an engineer. And then he leaned into it, and he was intellectually curious, especially in technology and science. And again, we see him pursue that. It's so crazy, man. You can do so good at school, and it's a solid amount of time of your life, 4 years, and it's literally a footnote. This person went here, graduated here, we're like, oh, that's dope, and then he went on to his career.
I think for a lot of people, it's also like not as impressive. It's like, okay, you did the thing, but to get a 4.2 at Princeton, I'm not sure if you can get a single answer wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is wild to me that you could go through an entire learning pursuit and do it to a point where you don't get a single answer wrong for 4 years.
Well, he was very what's different is how he actually went through and completed school, as opposed to some of the other founders that we've studied that, you know, either didn't go or left early.
Right.
But then also the success that he had while he was there. I mean, he was dialed in.
Very
and that's
dialed
something that I'm wondering, is it something that did he not go out? Was he only locked in and saying, hey, I'm only going to study here, I'm here for a job, I'm here for work, and that's it?
Right.
But, you know, I mean, we read about it, and it is very impressive.
I think it's that discipline that you start to see early on, even from a high school standpoint. You know, because valedictorian, that's also someone who can't get an answer wrong. Like, and then you see that as a character trait
Mm-hmm.
throughout his early life, and then I believe took it into his company life, right, in Amazon, and then it plays a big part in how he runs the company's culture.
Yeah, I mean, he very much talks about high standards,
Right.
and he believes that high standards are learnable, especially if you put them in the right position. But another thing that I think is interesting is that his father wasn't as accomplished and
Right.
struggled with drinking and with
Oh, his
other
biological
habits.
father.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and then he has an adoptive father, and I wonder how much of it is genetic,
Right.
how much of it is examples that are nurtured early on,
Mhm.
and then how much of it is the environment. Of course, his maternal side had a lot of smarts, clearly,
Yeah.
but again, just wondering how much of it is nature, how much of it is nurture. I usually tend to believe things are more nurture.
Nurtured, yeah.
I mean, I think that a lot of people can accomplish a lot and undersell themselves greatly, but I think that still they both influence each other. It's very chicken and egg
Right. But it's very cool to see this specific one where it's like, okay, you can see these levers
Mm-hmm.
that were changed, from a normal upbringing.
Yeah.
And then you see the outcome, the world's richest man for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concoction of,
Yeah.
of variables here.
Yeah. So he graduates this is 1986, or 1986,
Mhm.
and between this time, 1986 and 1984, the next 8 years, this is when he's on Wall Street and he's in the finance sector.
Hedge fund.
Yep. He started at Fitel in 1986, worked there for 2 years. This was his first job out of Princeton. And this was a fintech startup in New York.
Mhm.
They were building this transatlantic computer network for stock traders. And he gained a lot of experience here just building technical systems. Just first, foray into the professional world. After that, he worked at Bankers Trust, joined Bankers Trust Company. This was also in New York, led development of computer systems, managing more than 250 billion in assets, became the youngest vice president in the company's history in February 1990 at age 26.
Yeah.
I don't know why my mind is thinking about Warren Buffett right now, but Warren Buffett around 26 was in a place where he was starting to see some real financial and professional success.
Yeah, I think they both hit big at 30 as well.
Yeah. And that's coming up right around here. But the 26 marker is really interesting just because they're both in professional careers, which again is different for a lot of other tech startups or tech founders that we see right now, is that typically the story today is you go from early high school, you hit it lucky, and then you get funded and you just go.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a pattern of some of these really successful people getting into a professional world first, learning, and then growing from there. And so I think it's a mix. People have their own stories, people have their own trajectories.
Right.
But yes, in 1990, he goes to D.E. Shaw and Company. He was recruited by D.E. Shaw to join this quantitative hedge fund. This was one of the most sophisticatedly technical ones in Wall Street at the time.
Yeah.
Rose to become the youngest senior vice president at age 28 in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And he was tasked with exploring the internet business opportunities. And he discovered that the web usage was growing at 2,300% per year. This is also where he met his first wife, Mackenzie Tuttle, later Mackenzie Scott, and she was an aspiring novelist, worked as an administration assistant. And her entry point is pretty interesting because she played an early role in the success of Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's also just another interesting thing is he saw this latest technology and he said, all right, I'm going to go and jump on it. To me, where I parallel that is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And where we are right now with artificial intelligence and the impacts that it's having in the world.
There's a lot of founders out, even successful ones now, that saw that opportunity and are currently leveraging it.
I mean, I look at us right now as to that we're tasked with building the consumer AI products at a fintech company, and we saw the opportunity and said, hey, we have to go out here and explore this, do something, because it's going to have crazy changes now or never. And I think that we're seeing a lot of current numbers indicate that. But back to Bezos. So this decision was based around his regret minimization framework, and that's something that we've talked about on here before.
Yeah.
Where he saw a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, 2,300. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's like some of these meme coins that are going up.
You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Number go up.
Exactly.
Right? And his boss at the time was encouraging him to explore it and was supportive. He was just like, hey, pay attention to this. And so he said, all right, regret minimization. If I look back on this 80 years from now, am I going to look back and say, hey, I regret taking that chance and not succeeding? Or am I going to regret looking back and saying, I didn't take a chance at all, I didn't try?
Right.
And you find that a lot of people, especially later in life, regret not even trying.
Yes.
So he reasoned that, around that way, and he ultimately made the decision to go out here and start this new endeavor.
Yeah, it's a big jump, but he's also, with the context, he's not doing it out of high school. He's not doing it without a bunch of money in the bank, because he's a senior vice president at this point, approaching 30 years old. He does have a little bit of stability around him to go ahead and do this. I would say it's even more de-risked in that factor.
Yeah. So him and Mackenzie end up driving out west. They set up shop in Seattle just for a lot of logistical reasons. And a big reason was that they were close to a big book distributor. And this was going to be the underpinnings of Amazon, which was buying and selling books online, building a catalog that you just can't match as a physical retailer.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Maybe just to take a beat on that one.
Yeah.
Books being first was strategic, not a coincidence.
Talk about it.
Like, that was like, there's a lot of strategy there. Books is the only item, or the only, I guess you'd call it section, like the only type of product where there's more items than any other product in the world. Books, even today, are being published on the order of magnitude of millions of books a year. And any physical bookstore is only going to have 20 or 30,000 books at any one time, right? Like, you just can't physically have millions of books that are all coming out at the same time. A digital reference point, like a digital store, can do that. You can have 100 million titles and all be accessible, Dewey Decimal System, or whatever you want to do. And so it's strategic. He saw the fact that books outnumber all the other products in terms of the amount of items, the amount of SKUs you can have. And so yeah, this is a perfect example to digitize this, and that's why they started with books. It wasn't just like a random thing.
Yeah, and I've seen him say as much too.
Right.
That just the number just made sense. But he always talks about this, and we've also seen this with Dan Gilbert. Ideas are
easy,
and execution is worshipped.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And so recognizing it was one thing, pulling it off was another thing. Parlaying it into what we see today was a whole other thing.
Right. So you want to get started on how we actually built this thing? Yeah.
So it started out as Cadabra Inc. I'm assuming because of abracadabra.
Right.
Then he heard somebody call it Cadabra Inc. and he was like, all right, I'm gonna change this. This isn't working. He also played around with the idea of relentless being the name. And again, we see that with relentless.com still being redirected to amazon.com. But ultimately they settled on Amazon, named after the river, for the size. And that was like the bettings of it. So and again, another practical advantage is Amazon being named Amazon put them at the top of a lot of listings. So there was just a lot of logistical dominoes that he set up, whether, I don't know, consciously or just in hindsight, but the instinct was there.
Right. And this is all around 1994.
Yeah. So he set up operations in his garage, Northeast 28th Street in Bellevue, Washington.
Yeah.
And Shell Kapan was the first programmer early on. And so the first sale in early growth, I'm just going to run through a little bit of this.
Sure.
Break it down. Amazon.com launched as an online bookstore in July 16th, 1995. The first book sold was Douglas Hofstadter's Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies. Within the first month, Amazon had sold books to customers in all 50 states and 45 countries. Bezos' parents, Mike and Jackie, invested approximately $245,000, nearly their entire life savings, in the company. And the early tagline was Earth's biggest bookstore.
Yeah.
In 1997, they IPO'd, and he wrote his shareholder letter. Amazon went public on the NASDAQ on May 15th, 1997, at $18 per share. They generated $148 million in revenue that year, with a net loss of $30 million. Bezos' first shareholder letter became legendary. He laid out the philosophy and would guide the company for decades. He talked about long-term thinking, customer obsession, willingness to be understood, market leadership over short-term stability. And he attaches this 1997 shareholder letter to every subsequent shareholder letter, or he did, until he resigned as CEO.
Yeah, I think the way that he getting your parents to give you almost $300,000 is a very important step.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that should be looked over in terms of how you start a company. That initial funding can do wonders for you.
Break it down.
I mean, just that. It can do absolute wonders. The fact that you have that kind of liquid mobility in a very early stage venture, you can hire a programmer, you can hire marketing, you can do these things. Because, I mean, Jeff was very technical, but the first thing they did was hire people to build the site and build the product. It's something that, I mean, we know that very well, is that capital can grease the wheels of business.
Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me, of course, is $245,000 in 1994.
I think it was over 2 or 3 years as well.
And that was, I mean, the 90s, and then looking at inflation, it's probably close to $1 million.
Oh, I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely higher than what they had.
But the thing to also point out is it was their life savings. And so he went to his parents and said, hey, trust me with your life savings.
Yeah.
And they also had the confidence to say, we are going to trust you with our life savings.
Right.
I think he had a track record of a lot of success early on in terms of his studies, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But it is interesting to look at that level of commitment and that level of an ask to say, hey, this is what I need, invest in me. I believe that I can pull this off. I believe that we can pull this off. Let's go forward. And that part of it is another aspect of it too. I believe that he had some other investment. He said he wrote 150 plus in letters to investors to also do some additional fundraising. But the big thing there, which I talked about in the last Super Secret, is the ask and how important that is to fundraise and raise funds. And there's this culture that I see today of mostly going to the lords on high in venture capital land. Please, 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 give me the funds to take this to the. But that's not the only way to fundraise. And I think a lot of it is taking on that risk and being like, hey, I'm going to take on the pressure of asking the people closest to me to help me advance this cause, this business.
We've seen that with a couple founders too, like Barry Gordy. That's another community investment. You know,
yeah.
Amazon, great example, community investment. I think he famously took 60 meetings to get the $1 million, whatever he needed. But yeah, I mean,
Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, a lot of people were like, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. Even to this day, we talked about Warren Buffett when he started his
family, I guess, community investment. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, that's an important step, and that early liquidity helps stimulate growth.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, he made his parents his first investors. They bet their life savings on their son, and that basically shapes the course of history. So then another thing that was happening here is they started expanding beyond books. They got into DVDs, electronics, toys, and more. And their stock price jumped in this dot-com bubble. And at age 35 in 1999, Bezos was named Times Persons of the Year.
Yes, that was something I know that his mother was very proud of him for. Just I'm sure any mother would be.
Yeah.
Person of the Year.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And also, I mean, he shares the company of a couple other people that have been on here.
That's true.
Bill Gates and Adam Newman.
That's right. That's right.
So 2000s to 2010, this is obviously the crash, but then they also made it through the crash and saw a ridiculous growth, and we really started to see the infrastructure of what would be known today as Amazon, the Amazon as we know it.
Yeah, because they definitely expanded beyond a retailer.
Yeah, and this is where we started to see the AWS, Amazon Web Services, come together. The marketplace really grew. But let me run you through a couple other areas right here. This started with the dot-com crash. Between late 1999 and 2001, Amazon stock price collapsed from $113 per share to $6 per share, which was a 94% decline.
Yeah.
Wall Street analysts called the company Amazon.bomb, Amazon.toast.
Yeah.
Then analysts at Lehman Brothers published a research note titled Amazon.bomb, and basically just called the bound. And it's easy to attack and pile on when times are low. Personally, I don't want to be the person who's writing an editorial about this when I just know how things cycle. It's like, now you're that guy.
Well, I also think it was a little short-sighted in terms of, like, they are writing those things around secondary markets, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't write it about Amazon's actual business.
Yeah.
The fact that the company's never made a profit for the first 20 or 30 years of its operation.
Investments. Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, like, on the secondary market, it's bombing. Yes, that's public sentiment. That's not the actual inner workings and what Warren might say is the value of the company.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's a little bit misguided in terms of you're poking fun at the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the stock price might be low, but that doesn't indicate where the company is or where it's going. And he said as much to employees during the time.
Yeah.
You know, don't focus on the stock price. We know where we're going. Put our heads down. Let's get there.
It's long-term thinking, baby.
Exactly.
And another thing too, since you called out Warren right there, is we saw that with Warren, where during that dot-com bubble, everybody was like, "Why are you not investing? Why are you not investing?" And the dot-com bubble burst.
Too many fastballs.
And then you saw him start to really make his moves, and you're like, "Oh,
eating it up."
You know, and it's one of those things where if you can make it through the short-term jumps and spikes and stay focused and laser focused on the long-term plan, it's crazy how much you can grow.
Yeah, a little bit of like delayed gratification, a little bit of strategic planning.
And that's true in business and in life.
Exactly.
In terms of like a less tangible way of measuring it is skill development might be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Where if you want to get better at something, you start to see, short term, you might not see the jumps in the improvement, but long term, you can see the investments pay off. Exactly. Yes. And this is another thing too, where the reinvestment is a reinvestment in the value of the company, and that's what ends up growing the business, and it compounds like we're seeing right now. The Amazon of 2026 is not the Amazon of 2020 or 2001.
Well, it is. It was just reinvested in.
Yeah, it's a growth version. Yeah, so Amazon posted its first quarterly profit in Q4 of 2001.
Oh yeah.
$5 billion profit over $1 billion in revenue.
I mean, any corporation can play with these numbers any way they want to. So like, don't be fooled into thinking that everyone's playing the same game. Like they can make these numbers do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's like, well, we have $1 billion in revenue. It's like, well, how much are you profiting? But I mean, they were open about that.
Yeah.
They were also a public company.
Right.
But their first full year profit came in 2003. The net income was $35 million on $5.3 billion in revenue. Amazon Marketplace started in 2000, and this is where they started to allow third-party sellers on the platform. which was counterintuitive for the time. People were saying, why are you inviting your competitors onto your site? And his reasoning was, if someone else had a better price or selection, the customer should first find it on Amazon. Third-party sales eventually grew to more than 60% of all transactions on the platform. And of course, we see what it is today, where you can go and list your products on there and sell.
Right.
But this is what basically enabled the flywheel. And in a meeting with business author Jim Collins, he wrote Good to Great. Bezos sketched out the Amazon flywheel on a napkin, and he talked about how lower prices attract more customers attract more sellers increase selection, more selection improves customer experience, better experience drives more traffic lowers per unit costs, lower costs enable lower prices, and the wheel keeps spinning.
Yeah.
And the self-reinforcing loop became the strategic engine of everything that we see on Amazon today.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's their only strategic play. They were very ruthless in the way that they allowed these third-party retailers to operate on their own turf. But yeah, I mean, to even have that vision and that infrastructure of, hey, we need this flywheel, it's going to work this way,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can attack it where the bottlenecks are, I think is a very smart way to look at your business.
Yeah, I think there's let's go into a couple more of these different things that we see today, but were planted early on. And then I want to talk a little bit about the third-party retailers, because I think you brought up a contentious point.
Contentious, okay.
Yeah. And so
yeah, let's do it.
We have the Amazon Prime, 2005 launched.
Big moment.
And this was it started with the limited 2-day shipping for a flat annual fee of $79. Internal skeptics were like, this doesn't make sense. It would be too expensive. Basically, that cost wouldn't justify the.
I don't think it's about
shipping.
the cost,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about that. It's the psychological feeling I get that I can pay one time, and now every time I pay for something on Amazon, I see this thing that says free 2-day shipping.
Yeah, it's in this ecosystem of building out the ecosystem. I mean,
Amazon.
we just dropped some Drive Islands. And so, yeah, it was Prime became the most. It's obvious, the most powerful membership loyalty program in e-commerce history.
Yeah.
And it has over 200 members globally today. Amazon Web Services was launched in 2006, and this was basically computing infrastructure as a pay-as-you-go service. It started with S3, which was storage, and EC2, which is computing.
Yep.
And these were just basic infrastructure services at the time. It's definitely grown into something way more comprehensive than just that. We've used it
Extensively, yeah.
And this was born from Amazon's own need to build scalable internal infrastructure. Initially viewed as a side project, it would become the most profitable division in the company. AWS gave startups access to enterprise-grade infrastructure without massive upfront capital. And this is interesting because it goes back to Rockefeller. It goes back to, or not back to currently, but back to in terms of our episodes.
Right.
Jensen Huang.
Okay.
Where it's, you can, and I forget the exact saying that we have, but you can turn these side projects into different businesses. Rockefeller did this.
Sell the whole cow.
Yeah, sell the whole cow. That's what the saying is, sell the whole cow. And this is a perfect version of that.
Yes.
And the rest of the cow that they ended up selling ended up being even more valuable and profitable than the other aspects. So Jensen Huang, they sold the chips that didn't meet the grade of the top flight chips, and then it was another line of product.
Right, when I have my computer at home.
And then Rockefeller, it was gasoline.
It was essentially gasoline, which was purified from like silicone or something like that, which they didn't have cars at the time, so they couldn't use it. But it was that purification process, I think, from silicone to gasoline or something like that, or using silicone to get gasoline.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it's wild how some of these things end up panning out. And I think there's a few other founders that we've
Sell the whole cow.
that ended up selling the whole cow and seeing wild profits from doing so.
The one thing I want to call out, we'll get into this a little bit in the super secret,
Mm-hmm.
but Amazon Web Services is so large that when their service goes down, it feels like the internet's down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but
It's
like
crazy.
when Cloudflare, like when these big services go down, a lot of that's running on AWS infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like the world's kind of halting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's very, very interesting. We've experienced that on so many different levels.
Right.
And just to give people an idea, some of the biggest companies are on there. You have
Yes.
Netflix, the CIA, NASA,
Yep.
and millions of startups
Yeah.
that use Amazon. So
A couple
it's
Fortune 100 companies that we know are on.
right. Rocket,
Yeah.
like a lot. And so, and not, if not all, I mean, Snapchat also moved over there too.
Yes.
So if not all of their infrastructure, even partial aspects of their infrastructure might be on Amazon.
Yeah, or dependency, you know, and so it's like you can't really get away from it.
Yeah. So it feels like the internet's down 100%. And so that was this was a big successful move in play for them. And then the other thing was the Kindle that came out in 2007. This launched the whole e-reader on started at $399, sold out in 5.5 hours. Bezos saw digital books as inevitable and wanted Amazon to lead the transition, even if it cannibalized its own physical books business.
That's right.
I think the saying around here was, "Your margin is my opportunity,"
Yes.
and applied it to
Yes.
the entire publishing industry.
100%.
And I think that's a perfect jump off to get into what you were talking about right
So
here.
even just one more point on the Kindle, did you ever find out how many were actually sold? It's on purpose.
Probably wasn't a lot, huh?
Yeah, they've never published how many Kindles have been sold in terms of units.
Well, it's a great headline.
It is a great headline, but yeah, we can
We
absolutely talk
only have
about this.
3. They're sold out.
They're sold out.
5.5 hours. Can you believe that? We sold 1 in 5.5
Hey,
hours. We're done.
Overnight success. But no, we can absolutely talk about some of these marketplace terms and conditions.
Well, I'm just thinking about this Frontline interview,
Okay.
which is hilarious because there was this moment where they were playing this eerie music and it was Jeff Bezos laugh in the background, and I'm like, if this doesn't make him seem like a comic book villain, then I don't know what does. It showed him with like the arms, he had this for the people that haven't seen this, there was this these robotic arms that were connected to his arms and would mimic his gestures.
He was doing like a demo or something like that.
And it showed him, a tinted screen doing this, looking like Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I was thinking about that, and of course they bring up some good points and areas that people
I've complained about in the past.
Of course. But that's what came to mind as you were talking about the people that were on the opposite side of your margin is my opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like we went through a lot of the Amazon marketplace in terms of books, but even with the books, right? Because it started there was what I would consider very ruthless business practices, where you're selling a book. I know that your competitor has this for cheaper, and so what can I do as a digital marketplace? I can downgrade your link and upgrade your competitor's link. I can do things that are, they're cutting into that margin, because that's how I know I can bring people back to my site and to order more things. There's a really classic example is people would go into bookstores, browse a selection, find the book they wanted, then go home and order it on Amazon just because it would be a little bit cheaper and they wouldn't have to pay the sales tax.
It's this relentless customer obsession. And he would say not customer focus, not customer, not customer focus, but obsession. He was not customer experience, customer obsession. And that could be seen as a way to justify some of his tactics. It could also be seen as a way to empower the people that are ultimately buying.
Right.
One thing that I know is that in that statement, there is the idea that if you have a large margin, we're going to come for that because we're not, it's an opportunity. And we keep thin margins to keep people out of this space.
Right.
And so it's something to consider, where if you are, and I say this for the discussion point, is if you are pocketing more than you actually need, there's somebody watching and saying, oh, I might be able to deliver a better experience for cheaper, and I'm going to come for that. And are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Now I say that, now the flip side of that is he's gained so much leverage in other areas,
right,
that it's not a fair one-to-one matchup.
Yeah, it's not in isolation.
But he also says that I'm not worried about the competition, I'm worried about the customer. And that allows him, as he's talked about, the ability to enter markets earlier, because he's looking at customer need. But then also it allows him to not be as worried about how the competition is about to feel about him moving into a space,
right,
which creates an incredible amount of leverage, and for better or worse. I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't happy about that, and a lot of people that,
yeah,
you know,
it's like, I think
this is business. This is kind of basic supplier business, and we have Sam Waltman coming up after Jeff Bezos.
That's right.
So we're gonna be talking a little bit more of that, you know, that retailer squeeze.
And yeah, that's another thing to call out is, like, you know, retail has been around for 100 years plus at this point. Amazon's not inventing these tactics that are used by big retailers to, you know, push products or to push suppliers out of product lines. It's just done in a digital way. And so I think some of that stuff in terms of, like, oh, the customer obsession, I hear that a lot too. I am curious how much of that is, like you said, justification for what he's done, and then, like, who's actually impacted. If I was a business owner and you're cutting into my margins, that I would take that a certain type of way, versus if I'm an Amazon employee having to pee in a bucket because I can't make my time, and it's like, oh no, well, like, you can sacrifice because we're all about the customer. I think there's, like, I would take it a different way. You know, because I know they don't have, like, the best working conditions, allegedly.
Allegedly. I don't know as much about this.
Really?
Because, I mean, I've heard headlines, but I'm not on the floor. I know that we've worked with people in the past that exaggerate their situation.
Very true.
And it's like, you didn't need to do that, though. Like, there was other options that you could have done, and then you chose to do this and blamed it on.
Yeah.
But then there's also things where it's like, it isn't always right there, and there is justified complaints,
right,
and sometimes it's from all the way on high. Sometimes there's power struggles amongst managers and middle managers,
100%,
that don't necessarily reflect the company, and by company I mean the entire group of people. So I think that there's, like, I haven't gotten as deep as I would have liked at this point into, like, who's actually making the complaints, how deep they actually go. Is it ever refuted, or is it just a headline that makes or is it just the complaint that makes the headline and not the response? Again, I don't say this to absolve Amazon in any way. I'm just saying that on the working conditions thing, I'm less informed.
I think it's something that's it's a hard business to be in. Like, just thinking about the logistics of, like, a warehouse like that. If you can package 80 boxes in an hour, and you can do that for 4 months straight, well, now why can't I raise the bar to 85? Let's see if we can push you just to 85, and then you start doing that for 3 months straight. Well, let's push you a little bit more to 90. And, like, there's not a reason to stop doing that to the point where you're gonna get a certain level of turnover. You're gonna get a certain level of people that can do it and can't do it. And so it's just, like, a really interesting business model where I feel like that kind of abuse of, maybe not abuse, I would say, but, like, the working conditions don't always favor the employee. Even in all situations like that.
But I think that's one or a couple reasons. A couple of things that come to mind is, one, I believe that you're accepting an offer from a company that is making an offer in its best interest.
Right, it definitely is in its best interest.
This is, I mean, again, we are building products around this, because it's come to a point where some of these companies are like, we don't even have to make the software anymore, because we have tools right now that enable us to do way more. And so now you're not even getting the chance to complain to us, because we don't need that.
Yeah, hire a robot.
Right? And so that's where we're starting to push people to say, hey, go out here, explore what's out there. Constance.com. Explore what's out there, refine your offers, take your skill set, your interests, your experience, and be able to offer to different people. And there's different ways of creating different streams of revenue. So that's what I think we built in a world that acknowledges that companies aren't always going to make you the best offer.
Right.
The second thing, though, is that if you ask them, they're saying, well, we're paying you double minimum wage. We're providing the same benefits that we have. And so we do expect a certain level of working output and productivity.
Right.
And that's just the meat of it.
Yeah.
And so if you're not willing to take on the risk of developing your own creative skill set and your own opportunities, and you want to come work for us, then this is what we expect. And it's not a right, it's a privilege, in the sense that if you want to work here, and it's a choice, I should say, not necessarily a privilege, it's a choice to work here. So that's another angle. But then the third thing is that most companies of that type of dynamic, where you do have an upward mobility, or you do have like a compensation like that, is most companies do have a productivity benchmark that continues to improve. If you're in sales, they'll be like, okay, what did you make last time? Now
the progressive,
this, you know, and
it's interesting.
And so, especially in a more and more competitive environment, that's what you see. And so, I don't say that again to say that everything that they do is okay. I think contrary. I think that when you choose that dynamic, for better or worse, for the long term, I think a couple years in, getting your skills up, earning some revenue and balancing is a different thing.
100%.
And sometimes, like, you just kind of have to do that. So that's not it at all. But the aspect of, hey, I want this to be my only career and I don't want to have any type of other option, I think that that's something that is not the choices that I would probably make, just because I've seen situations like this. When you see it once or twice, you're like, okay, do I want to commit my life to that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. There's also like the dichotomy between like the white collar jobs and the blue collar jobs that they have, because they have like 600,000 employees. Most of those people are in the warehouses, in the fulfillment centers that they have. They're not the software engineers. Well, they do have a lot of them. They have some of the best software engineers and technical talent in the world. So they do offer that difference of, because I think, what you're talking about is those blue collar jobs that you might not want in long term, but the white collar jobs, you could definitely make a career out of, and people have. The one thing that's really interesting, I think, for the Amazon thing, just in terms of scale, is you drive past an Amazon driver probably once every 30 seconds if you're on the road. He's not even the richest person in the world anymore. That scale of what Amazon can actually produce with the amount of manpower and the amount of global logistics that they have, and then you have people that are actually richer than him. Like, that is a level of success that I think most people take for granted when they start ordering on Amazon. They see this 2-day shipping, and they see just how easy it is. They forget how hard it is to actually build something like that, and to have the standards of, hey, no, we need to keep improving. Yeah,
I mean, it's wild because we benefit from it, and then we criticize it. And that's the tricky part.
Yes,
that's
very tricky. Yes.
Where
same with truck drivers, right? It's like, we all want our produce in 2 days. But we don't think about the truck driver driving from Texas to Michigan overnight to get us that produce.
And somebody pushing that and holding a standard for that.
Yes.
So it's something that it's something that I don't think you ever get agreement on that whole situation in terms of workers and employers in companies and staff. But I do think that it is something where, if we realize that we have a choice and we can develop our own skill sets and what we can offer, then we can improve our dynamic. Because again, the company's not going to do things that's not in its best interest.
Right.
We know that. So, If we know that, then let's make sure that we organize our lives accordingly.
That's what Constance is here for.
Hey, and yeah, exactly. And that's the new world we're kind of being forced to do in that. So,
Yeah.
Kind of running through a little bit of this last little phase of the Amazon era. In this whole area where it's 2010 to 2021, this is where the dominance in the everything company really starts to emerge. AWS becomes a profit engine. By 2015, Amazon disclosed AWS financials separately for the first time, and it came out that this AWS had $7.8 billion in revenue, $1.9 billion in operating income. AWS generated the majority of Amazon's total operating profit despite being a fraction of total revenue. By 2023, $90.8 billion in AWS revenue. AWS customers, like I said before, include Netflix, NASA, CIA, millions of startups, Snapchat, list goes on. Like you said, when they're down, it feels like the internet is down.
It kind of does. It does. It's a little weird.
They acquired Zappos in 2009 for $1.2 billion. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos acquired by himself, and still it's one of his pet projects. Twitch in 2014 for $970 million.
That's something we're talking about, super secret.
Whole Foods 2017, Ring 2018, MGM 2022, and this was specifically for the content library that now powers Amazon Prime Video. One Medical in 2023, and 2017 Jeff Bezos became the richest person in the world, where he was his net worth was $211 billion. It's higher now, but he's no longer the richest person in the world.
Right.
And then in parallel, which we're seeing right now, is the Blue Origin milestone, the Blue Origin, and how the milestones have shaped over the years. So it was founded in 2000, before Amazon was even profitable. Their company motto is step by step ferociously, gratitim ferociter, and it was funded personally by Bezos with approximately $1 billion per year. New Shepard had a successful suborbital rocket launch and landed reusable boosters, kind of like SpaceX.
Yeah, very much.
And which is interesting because SpaceX is seeking a $2 trillion IPO.
That's right.
So it kind of goes to show, okay, when Blue Origin IPOs, what does that do for his net worth? Not only, of course, the space travel and everything like that, but his net worth is going to balloon. We're living in a world right now where there's trillionaires.
Yes.
And I mean, that's incredible. It's like trillionaire is the new billionaire, and billionaire is the new millionaire.
Yeah, which is wild.
Exactly.
I'm still not a millionaire.
And we're seeing a huge gap divide, and I think it really does come down to building skill sets and building assets that can grow and scale in the worlds that we're seeing develop right now. If you're just looking for wages and you're not building something or investing outside of that, then maybe not in the short term, but over a year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, you're going to start to see a huge gap. And we're starting to see inklings of that today, where the inflation is outpacing the general merit increases that you see.
Very much. It has been for a while,
but it's coming to close to 4% right now.
Wow.
And then you see the wealthy continuing to have their net worths increase
Multiply
at ridiculous rates.
Yeah.
So that gap is just going to continue to widen. When we see that, in 2021, Bezos flew into space himself, which I think is pretty cool. I think Branson did that too. Elon hasn't done that at all.
Right.
A different set of rockets, but and then New Glenn orbital rocket successfully reached orbit in its first launch in January 16th, 2025. He, of course, stepped down as the CEO. Back down in. He announced that in 2021, and Andy Jassy took over on the 27th anniversary of Amazon, and then now he's just focusing on the Bezos Earth Fund, Blue Origin, the Washington Post, and his other passion projects.
Partying too. He's a Miami boy now.
Yeah.
Enjoying his wealth for sure. I mean, he also built the world's largest mega yacht. You know, he's living on that thing for many weeks at a time. He's enjoying his wealth.
Yeah.
Like, I think he should.
Yeah, and I mean it's a big come up because in the early days, Amazon, they had the whole door desks, and so he was notoriously frugal early on, and now it looks like he's enjoying that a little bit more. He bought these $10 door desks from Home Depot, yeah, and it was like these are a symbol. It was a symbol though, and it shows what an early investment can lead to down the road.
Yeah. Why? I mean, and he's still alive. He's still doing stuff, and I suspect he will continue to contribute to the space race. Blue Origin is doing things that are seemingly a little bit more, what do you call them? Like civilian, like trips to space and stuff like that.
In space.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm excited to see that kind of technology be available to us very soon. Where like I can then go up, and do all that stuff. With Elon's, it definitely seems like he's trying to get to Mars and the moon, and do it with heavy machinery. But the Blue Origin stuff seems like a I don't know, like a public venture where it's like maybe I'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's, well, he wants to turn this to a park,
a national park. That's right.
So, I mean, it would be a global park, wouldn't it?
It's technically.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have some stories here, but you know what? Let's shift into the super secret.
Yeah, I've got a lot to go over in the super secret.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested, check us out in that super secret episode, either on Constance or here on YouTube.
Yep.
And anything else you want to call it?
No, man. I think that this was an interesting episode. We know Jeff Bezos, but his story's not as publicized. Like the underpinnings and his like roots and all of that, and so it's just interesting to hear about him. And I thought it was fun. I'm really excited to get into the super secret episode. Constance.com, check it out.